Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Of course, it's a very, very special game of football tomorrow. You probably know Vincent Kompany is returning to the Etihad Stadium. Managing Burnley, something I never thought I would say about 18 months ago, but this is the reality. And he's absolutely smashing the championship. So I wanted to know a little bit more about what's going on with him and Burnley. So there's only one man to speak to really, Vizzy, otherwise known as Liam, of course. It should be the way around, Liam, otherwise known as Vizzy. Mate, welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
I was doing fantastic until about 2 weeks ago when we beat Fleetwood it was. And then we had a chance for one more game to get to Wembley. And then we face you again, and I'm quite frustrated, man. Please, I'll be honest with you. Like, I was looking forward to playing you next year, all the storylines, but like, just please, just give us a chance. Just leave us for 1 year, because I've been to Etihad, I think 4 times, and I've seen 3 5-0s.
Yeah.
So please,
it's not great, your record against City. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I'm terrified, because you know what football does, man. Football has these narratives, doesn't it, where as soon as you get confident, and football has these narratives as well because of people like Vincent Kompany. Vincent Kompany is the kind of guy who makes headlines and does magical things because he's a magical, wonderful person. So magical that literally my whole channel's a pun based around his name, for fuck's sake, and he's more relevant to you guys now than he is me. But Burnley, like, I mean, I'll give the background. I'm just Googling championship table now just to see how many points you actually are clear. 13 points clear with 9 games left. You're promoted, basically. You are 19 points clear of 3rd place, so you are basically promoted. How many more points do you need to be mathematically promoted?
You mean as like a rule of thumb, or like for us in that situation?
In your situation now, so there's 9 games left, right, for you in the league. So that's
we can 27. We can get promoted in 2 games' time because we play Middlesbrough in our 2nd game. So we play Sunderland at home and then Borough away.
That
if we
is
beat Borough away, then there's a chance we could get promoted in 2 days' time.
That's wild. So that's absolutely wild. So that's how far they are. And bear in mind, even with the January, like the month off around Christmas, it's only mid-March still. So they're absolutely flying, basically. Yeah. Scoring a ton of goals, 74 goals currently scored. You probably, with a little bit of luck, might reach 100 goals, which would be incredible. You know, things are looking absolutely wonderful. Take me back to the start, mate. Vincent Kompany was appointed your manager. How are you feeling?
Stunned, really, because as far as I'm aware, at a time period when we did go down against Newcastle, Vincent Kompany were always coined as our plan if we stayed up. And when we did go down, the large chunk of Burnley fans thought, okay, well, we can clearly not get Vincent Kompany, because why would he go down to Championship? He's got job offers and interest in Germany. There was like Wolfsburg, Borussia Mönchengladbach. They were both highly and heavily linked with him. And the day that I saw the news that he was going to be our man, I was completely baffled by it, because he must have been sold a dream. He must have been told that he was going to be getting not just back to the market, but complete freedom and control of our recruitment. Tactically, it must have been completely perfectly aligned with our board, and our board was relatively quite new. They came on about a year and a half before it actually went down. We was a sinking ship anyway, because our previous ownership put no investment. For example, we spent 900 grand in an entire year in the Premier League. 900 grand on one player, which was Dale Stephens. Like 8 games anyway. So, and we did that. And by the way, we still stayed up that year when we signed Dale Stephens and Will Norris as a backup goalkeeper, right? So the job that 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙩 did, incredible, remarkable, and I still love him to this very day. And that's the most incredible thing about this entire transition between 𝙏𝙬𝙨 and Vincent Kompany, because when you look at it, you look at 𝙏𝙬𝙨, not only the contrast of the actual style of play, but the job that he's done at Burnley, a decade under one man's ownership, tenure at a club. It's not normal to just kind of bounce back from that. Usually there's a bit of a transitional period where there's a bit of a hangover that you got to try to kind of lose what the club was and try to turn it into this new thing, which for many clubs, they spend 2, 3, 4 years trying to make that come together. But under Vincent Kompany, I can't begin to tell you how not just impressed, but just, I don't know what the word is to use.
Well, let's go for that. Like,
I was going to say proud. But I don't know him personally. But
well, we all feel like that way, don't we? He's such a great guy. I mean, let's go because you've started talking about the transition there. So you got Kompany in. And you probably heard at the time that he was obviously a man who likes to play a progressive kind of system. You know, he likes to attack, he likes to keep the ball. That was his mantra and how he wanted to set out. Of course, it was completely at odds, and I mean this with all the respect of what the reputation of Burnley was at the time. Burnley had become known under 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙬 as this really hard team to beat, really difficult. You know, I've been to Turf Moor. We beat you 2-1 when I went there. It was, but it was horrible. It was difficult. You know, it was physical. And you were the kind of team no one really liked to play against, and punching above your weight for a long time. And I mean that with respect, given the money that you spent. You know, when you heard that he was going to come in and change the play, what was the general mood amongst the fan base? Was there skepticism because you have this identity, you know, linked inherently to Burnley? He was asking that he's just going to change the club. You know, not asking. He was implying he was going to. Was there skepticism from some fans that this wasn't going to work, or was he expecting too much, or was it even resisted by some people?
I would think that, from what I remember, that it was just pure jubilation by the fact that we can actually maybe see some exciting new brand style of football to get fans back on their feet. Because under 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙬 for the last 3-4 years, it became so draining that you knew exactly what every game was going to be. Every part of the game, you knew what was going to happen. The lineups were the exact same for how many years, because he wasn't backed for the most part, so that didn't help. But it was so predictable, and football's meant to be exciting. It's meant to be getting you on your feet, meant to be unpredictable, and that's what football has been for us for so many years. So when we got Vincent Kompany, it felt like, okay, we're going a completely different direction. But the one problem is that we look at, okay, what's that kind of proof? What's he done? And he's only got one job at Anderlecht, which I think looking back, people questioned because they see Anderlecht as this big, massive club in Belgium, right? They think, oh, okay, they must be winning leagues. And they see, oh, well, he's finished 8th, then 4th, then I think 3rd. So thinking, oh, he's not winning leagues. He must be doing a poor job. But Anderlecht at the time, they were doing quite poor financially. And each year, they always sold their best players every single time. Lokonga, for example, and Doku, the best players, get shipped on for 20, 30 mil. And they were in some financial straits at the time. So he did a job that he could do over there. It got him to a cup final, lost in pens, unfortunately. But that was all we can really take from him. And there's a kind of, you know, the cliche of to come from overseas and to take a job in the championship, it's seen as a really tough task. And that's a narrative that we heard saying that, you can't expect Kompany to go from Belgium, never managed in England before, and take a job in the championship and expect to do well. And that's usually what you kind of see in football, but Kompany's just completely blown out the water.
Yeah, I mean that's fair as well. And I'm one of those who won't play down the championship, mainly because I'm a City fan, so I've been there since before the money, so to speak. I know what it's like down there, man. Like and I think the championship is one of the hardest leagues in world football. I think it just is. I think there's Premier League level sides littered throughout it, and there's Premier League level, there's former Premier League teams right down the pyramid, so I understand how hard it is to get out of that league, and to do what he's done is genuinely remarkable. And once again, they are going to be a Premier League team next season. He has reinvented Burnley Football Club, and he's done it with such a speed that it's almost defied belief. I think people probably felt maybe he can make this work. He's Vincent Kompany. He's got such a strength of personality that he can make things happen. But it's the speed that he's done it. He's almost overnight, more or less the first game of the season, Burnley looked like a different side. That must have been like, so what was everyone surprised, surely? When they started playing and passing it out from the back, was there a surprise reaction amongst the fans that it was working straight away?
I would say so, yeah, because we lost our entire foundation. We lost our core that's made Burnley for 5-10 years. Ben Mee, James Tarkowski, Nick Pope, Chris Wood, all these
quality players.
All these players that made us Burnley for how many years, and they all went in the summer, yes, for money, and we had money to spend, and people will say, kind of loosely that, we bought the league, but if we bought no players, then we would have 8 senior players left the club and freedom goalkeepers, right? So we had to bring in players, and Kompany used his knowledge of overseas in Belgium, for example, some great talent over there, Anas Saroyan, Manuel Benson, Josh Cullen, who he knows really well, uses links from top clubs in Premier League, of course, Howard Bellis, you know very well of, Muric as well from you, Ian Matson, Chelsea, Nathan Taylor of Southampton. So he's very smart in how he's gone about it, because he's not spent big money in terms of on one player. He's just spent 2 mil, 3 mil, 2 mil, 1 mil, 2 mil.
I'm just looking now, it's not ridiculous at all. It isn't.
And they all follow a very strict recruitment policy of young talent that you can develop. And one of the first things he said when he came to Burnley was that he wants to grow the club naturally. And how does a club like Burnley grow naturally? Is that you buy players for cheap and you develop them and you sell them for a high price, and that's the only real way that we can develop, naturally without getting massive investment. And yeah, speaking of course, the surprise of when we were playing this new style of football. I remember playing Huddersfield first game of the year, and it was like I was almost crying. Like I saw like 78% possession. We had like 650 passes in one game, and we were passing up on the back.
It's just City. It's just City, isn't it? That's the crazy thing about it.
Our 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙬 is like our best passer in the entire team, and he's a goalkeeper. His passing range is off the charts, and I think it's 6 times this year in the Championship, that our 𝙏𝙬𝙨, guess what? His average position is outside his box.
Really?
He plays like a CDM, because especially at home we've got 78% possession. I think our average possession is 75. I think across the entire year. We're so dominant, we're so controlled, and that is not because they give us respect, because we earn it. We suffocate teams, and our tactical style of play is very, very similar to a City style of play in terms of that 2-3-5 system with inverted fullbacks that has complete freedom to get into space and attacking areas and to create overloads. It's very similar, very similar.
And it's worked. And you mentioned obviously 𝙏𝙬𝙨 there. I mean, I remember being really excited about him many years ago. Seriously, he was seen as a huge prospect. Then he had a weird few years where he just he lost his way a little bit. A couple of dodgy loans and so on. And at one point, it looked like he was going to do that kind of thing where players just drift out the game a little bit. You're not out the game, but they drift down to the third tier of Turkish football or whatever, like send them to Turkey, and then they disappear there a little bit, and it happens every now and then. But he's now, the first choice keeper. He is first choice, isn't he? 35 games a season for a team who are bound to be a Premier League team next season. That is incredible coaching. And what I mean by that is his career was drifting, and he's taken this guy who obviously that he knew from his time at Manchester City, and he's given him the confidence to find himself again. And it's not just him either, so Ian Mason as well, the young Chelsea fullback, and obviously 𝙏𝙬𝙨. These have been wonderful for you, haven't they? And he's taken basically young raw talents, and it's a difficult league. It's a physical, aggressive league, and they've reacted. While we're on it, how's the City lads been? So obviously 𝙏𝙬𝙨, 𝙏𝙬𝙨. You obviously signed Egan Riley as well, who's no longer a City lad, of course. But how have those 3 been?
Well, of course, just kind of end off 𝙏𝙬𝙨. He's still raw in some areas in terms of commandment of his box. He can maybe be a bit too heavily, kind of in terms of physical battle against Sheffield United, for example. You saw that quite evident that he can be bullied a little bit, but he's still quite young and he is getting better. At first, some Burnley fans, he was quite a large debate in the Burnley fan base because Burnley have been so blessed with near perfect goalkeepers of Nick Pope and Tom Heaton, that when you get a goalkeeper with some sort of rawness and some edges, which most goalkeepers do, and when we actually get that experience, takes some time, especially when you pass out from the back. He made one mistake, I think, in the first couple of games of the year against, I think, Blackpool. And people are okay, this is it now. We're going to get this all year. We're going to be perfecting out, passing out from the back, easy goals. And that's happened, I think, 2 times the entire year or 3 times. And that's just a fact. That's just a reality that when you play the style of play that we do, brave out from the back, sometimes you do make an error. And that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But 𝙏𝙬𝙨, he was remarkable for us. Sadly picked up an injury in the FA Cup 3rd round against
Bournemouth. He's going to miss this,
isn't
he? I think, doesn't he miss this game? I think
he won't be able to play anyway because he's still not fully back from injury. We signed a Swedish centre back in January called 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙬𝙚, who he's a senior pro for Sweden, which he's been remarkable as well. So I feel a bit bad for Taylor, because some Burnley fans are already thinking, okay, we've got 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙀 now, we've got Jordan Bayer, who's amazing from Borussia Mönchengladbach. We don't need him anymore, even though I still think that, without a shadow of a doubt, Bellis would be England, centre back easily in 3-4 years' time. He's just got everything that you need to be a modern centre back in his, his passing range, his bravery in terms of how he could just break down that first line of the press. He can just do it at ease. And
learning from Vincent Kompany as well. Is there any centre back to learn from?
Exactly, and he's improved in terms of his physical presence as well, because sometimes he's not the tallest and not the stockiest, that maybe he can be pushed out the way, yeah, but he seems to always win his aerial duels quite a lot. And yeah, I was really impressed by him, and we've not seen him for a bit. So we're gonna see what may happen in the summer. I would love to get Bellis back, but I just feel like there could be a bit of a bidding war, as I do know that he's in his last year of contract. So we'll see what happens there. And Egan Riley, he's just a good, very, very good, composed.
He's not played much, has he? He's been like a backup, basically.
A backup, which like no one knows what his real position really is. Is it CDM? Is it right back, left back? He's played all positions. Right,
he's actually a centre back. I used to watch him in the academy. He was a centre back, and he was one of those centre backs where we had other good centre backs, so he kind of got shoved out to right back. So he's just sort of been cursed with being pretty good in most positions, but not really the star in any. So he's basically just a classic utility player, really, where he's not the strongest, he's not the fastest, but he's not slow, and he's not too weak, and he's not a bad passer. So he's basically pretty good at everything, but he's not great at anything. So he's almost lacks his own star quality, if that makes sense. Sometimes you need, something to make you stand out as this is who he is, this is what he does, so people can nurture it. But I think he's one of those guys who maybe a few years back, when you might have maybe 10, 15 years ago, when squads were a bit smaller and someone could play in loads of positions, might be a bit more useful. But either way, he's still obviously in a good place. So obviously you look like you're going to go up. You've got Manchester City in the FA Cup. So back to this game. It's been 5-0 a lot. So I am genuinely not expecting that. I'm not trying to be polite, mainly because I think Burnley learned a lot, because you were disappointed against United, weren't you? And I don't mean that in an overly negative way. I think it was just very much there was a nervousness to Burnley in that game, where it felt like, as well as you were doing, United were a massive step up in quality. He looked a little bit apprehensive and a little bit just looked young, and obviously you've got a young side and stuff, but it looked like there was a bit of a step up in quality there. How are you feeling about this City game in relation to how you played against United? Do you feel like the team has improved a lot since then?
The way that I see this game is just a perfect training exercise almost for the Premier League next year, because the thing is, even though we're doing so good in Championship, it's a poor league this year. It's a really poor league quality-wise. So we can be this good and break all these records, but all in all, we want to see how we can do against proper opposition. Yeah. And against United, it was our first test against Premier League, and I've geared a big opposition as well. I felt like we did pretty well for the grand scheme of things. We had a few players that weren't there. That's our main 11. So maybe they played. Maybe you could play a bit more brave at times. But I felt like we were still respectable. Where it cost Bournemouth, lower Premier position. They played a 4-11 ball Lerma, and we beat them 4-2 away. Great performance, fantastic, and we made them look silly at times. That was a fantastic performance. And now we're going to City, and it's like, okay, let's see what we can do. Let's use this as a proper platform to test the waters of, can we play our attacking, dominant possession-based style of football in the Premier League against the top elite teams. And that's why I'm quite relieved that we are playing against you, because I think this could give us a lot of information, a lot of data to give us a better insight of, okay, number one, this is what we need to improve for next year in terms of what players, in what roles can we improve in this area, because it's going to be shown our weaknesses. Our weaknesses against any team will be shown against City. Any team's weakness will be obviously shown against City, right? So that's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because it is City. And, I've been to City enough times to know that I have zero hope for this game. I did a tweet last night. I don't know if you saw, 4 random and stupid stats to give Burnley fans hope.
I didn't see it. Go on.
One is, put on my glasses here, Vincent Kompany's head shape by mass is larger than Pep's, therefore more bold power. Well,
that's undisputable. I'm going to find him as well. That's he's definitely got a bigger head. I've been near both of them, and that's a big fucking head, man, and I love it for it. But it's got its own orbit. It's so big.
Liverpool beat after 7-0 and then lost 1-0 to Bournemouth. Team begins with a B.
Yep.
He beat Leipzig 7-0. There you go.
There we go.
And the last team that beat Man City at Etihad is Brentford 2-1. Both teams begin with a B and have a B in the badge. There you go. It's undisputed. We're going to beat you guys 1-0.
There we go. I just saw the last one. Last time Burnley beat City away, what score was 1-0? They won the 18th game. Guess what date we play? Oh, the 18th.
Yeah, 1973, last time we beat City away, because that'd be our main road. But Yeah. I mean, the thing is, right, if we score a goal, I'll see it as a win. You know, if we give a good performance and we can see if we can still play our kind of expansive style of play, even somewhat, if he's going to adapt it, obviously, because we can't do the way we usually play against you guys, but I want to see how we can do it.
It's going to be your strongest team, right? I think it should be, and I think you should play your strongest team because you're doing so well in the league. As you said, you want to test yourself, don't you? Surely, and also there's an element of pride for Vinny. You know, I think he wants to, come back to the Etihad and put on a show.
Well, I mean, I kind of want to ask you because I speak to a limited amount of City fans, but where can you see Kompany in terms of the plan, the managerial plan for Man City?
Well, you've seen my
tweets.
tweets.
A plan in 5 years' time?
So you know I want Vincent Kompany back at Man City. My general thing in football is it's the most important, unimportant thing in the world. Like I love for football, but I'm absolutely aware it's just this emotional thing that has this pull over us, and there's nothing to me that screams more beautiful, wonderful narrative more than Vincent Kompany returning to Manchester City one day. Like and it's worth the potential pain of it not working because I'd love him anyway. That statue isn't going to be ripped down if he finishes fourth. You know what I mean? Like we've got to love him anyway. It doesn't matter if he finishes fifth one year. So I want him back at Manchester City. And to be honest, it's going to sort of touch on something else actually in a minute because we're going to look at other former City players. But I think the plan for City is to do something similar to what Barcelona did, where they brought in, Tita Vanilla, rest in peace, but they brought in the coach and so on after Guardiola and all that kind of stuff, where they'll bring in people who are close to Guardiola. And Guardiola also sort of once sort of implied, if not probably just said actually out loud, that if he had left, Arteta would have been the coach after him. So I think the plan always is to keep it almost sort of in house. Now I know Vinny's left, but he's very much in house. He's a Manchester City legend. Yeah, he is. He's part of Manchester City's. Like City obviously changed that day in 2008, and he was there already before then. And he's very much he's the probably the beating heart of Manchester City since 2008. And he loves his club, Mancunian accent. His kids are basically Mancunians. His missus is a City fan from Manchester. He lives in the northwest though, which is probably why he was so tempted by Burnley as well because he knows them so well. So
they did play a factor.
Exactly, of course it did, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just makes a lot of sense for him, and it's probably one of the reasons why he's doing so well as well, because familiarity. Everyone likes to be comfortable where they live. So I think City do want him back eventually, and I think the plan is to see. I wouldn't be surprised if City went for him even after Guardiola left, if he was doing really well with Burnley in the Premier League. I know that sounds crazy, but
can you see Burnley to City? I always see that. I think
he could do. I think they could do it because if they're willing to go for Arteta immediately after Guardiola, before Arteta had even joined Arsenal, but at this point, Kompany would have been way more experienced than Arteta, if that makes sense, because they were willing to go for Arteta allegedly, according to Guardiola. If Guardiola walked away while Arteta was assistant manager, if Vincent Kompany has got Burnley promoted and made them a good Premier League team, which I think he could do, he's more qualified than Arteta would have been. And I think given the stature of him, I guess it also depends who's available, by the way. They might decide someone else, like some top class manager might be like just available, whatever. But I think City are looking at him, and I think they've been looking at a few coaches. But it also sort of links to what I'm going to say as well, because one former Man City player who was trained in house, Patrick Vieira, for example, he's just been sacked by Crystal Palace. I mean, he was someone that I know at City were keeping an eye on, but I don't think he's really been up to scratch. He's not really played the football that City would like to see, and people like Vinny are actually doing it. And I think it's always more impressive when it's up close and personal. Like if he was doing really well at Anderlecht, it's far away from home still, so it's not. You don't feel it as much, but when he's in the northwest and he's about to be in a Premier League team, you can't help but notice it. And you can't help but wonder. It makes it more tempting. There's so many
City fans that I know that's actually gone to Turf Moor this year, just because it's like a Tuesday night game we play midweek, right? So I know so many City fans that just.
I would have gone to see Burnley because I live in Ramsbottom, which is I think Turf Moor is closer for me now than the Etihad. So I would have gone because I know a friend who works at the club at Turf Moor. I would have gone if I hadn't had my son and parenting got in the way and stuff. But I probably would have gone to a Burnley game this season out of curiosity for that reason alone, to see how Howard Bellis, Muric and whatever got on, and also of course just watch Vinny's football because it's that good. And I think that the plan is for him to come back. I don't know if it's very soon, but it depends how long Guardiola stays, because I reckon if Guardiola goes in a year, maybe it's too soon. But if he goes in 3 years and Kompany has done with Burnley what you would hope, I guess, that Potter's done to Brighton, something like that, where they are 7th or something like that, and why not, man? Why not?
I mean, it cannot always make sense. I know that when Kompany spoke about it in his recent presser, he spoke about that. People, of course, linking him with City job for the future, and he said that the manager of Man City should always be the best manager in the world.
Yeah.
And he doesn't think that he would be that, and he thinks that he has
What
to
a
prove that.
what a spokesman, by the way. He knows what to say, doesn't he? Always.
Exactly. But like, of course, I think that means that he has to prove himself, and I think that won't be at Burnley. I think there will be a stepping stone club if it's in England or if it's overseas. He could take on a job in Germany again because he speaks German. You know, he goes to Dortmund, for example, right, and does well for them in Bundesliga, or he stays in Premier and takes a. I don't even know who it would have to be, like Spurs, for example.
He won't
like
go Palace, will he? I don't think he'll go Palace. I think that'd be stupid.
No. When he goes, when he leaves Burnley, it'd be for a clear and obvious step up. That Spurs or a Villa, for example, it won't be to a Palace is a sideways step.
Yeah,
obviously in terms of what he wants to achieve, and with Burnley, obviously without Burnley, but with or without, Vincent Kompany is going right to the very top of elite football because he has got everything. Again, not just how fast he's got his ideas to the players, but he's not just got a good team depth-wise, but he's improved so many players from defensive side of games because he's a defender, but also attacking-wise as well. He's developed so many players that were, let's say, of a similar, of a one mold, clear, obvious example, Ashley Barnes. He's turned him into Kevin De Bruyne this year. He's playing as a number 10. He's playing as a deep line false 9 striker who drops deep and pings it off left and right and does link-up play, 1-2s. I'm seeing him do balls, which I've never imagined in my entire life. And he's not just turned young players into better players, but also he's turned old players that was of one style play and completely adapted them. And again, in not just play management, how he controls his players, but also when it comes to during a game, he's proactive with his subs. He's always on the front foot in terms of that. He always makes right changes at the right times. He's going to be the next generation. And I
hope so,
know
mate.
that I guess I'm biased because he's part of us for the time being, but I've seen him week in, week out, and there's not a single, like...
You can see why we love him, can't you? You can see why we love him. Like, he's just...
Oh, the way he speaks and comes across, it's just like... It makes you very proud that he's part of our football club.
He's the brains,
remarkable,
and the passion at the same time, and the talent as well. And I like what you're saying about him changing people like Ashley Barnes, because everyone knows Ashley Barnes, man. He's been around forever, and like he's changing his game and improving it as well. And that's one thing that people like to pretend that Guardiola doesn't do, but I know it's true. I watched him turn, a functional £8 million backup DM in Fabian Delph into a very good left back for a year. And I watched him turn. He changed De Bruyne and David Silva's game. They were number 10s. They became box to box number 8s for us. And he made Otamendi, a rash centre back, into a Premier League Team of the Year centre back when we got 100 points. And Otamendi was also already a good player, but he was a fucking hectic player. He was hectic, especially when you describe him. And he became well better. And he was.
He's like Christian Romero is now. I guess
exactly, yeah. And like these and these little things where it's more like they already had this talent, but what people like Guardiola do, and I think Vinny might be the same, is they see that talent and they just make it more consistent, and they just go, you could do this, by the way, and they just show them how to do it. And it's just a little bit of, I think great coaches, I think my belief with players is that there's very little that a championship player can't do that a Premier League player can't do as well. It's just consistency. Like they can all control the ball from 40, 50 yards. They can all ping a pass as well. But the best players just do it more often. And they do it more with more because they're all elite level footballers. It's like there's not any player in the championship one day could score a 30-yard volley, or could ping 50-yard pass perfectly. They just don't do it as much because they're not as consistent, or they and a lot of it's mental. And I think what people like Guardiola and Kompany hopefully can do is they just make them more consistent by making them more confident, and they show how to be more consistent. So I'm hoping Kompany's the same, because people talk about Guardiola just all spending money, but you can spend money, and a lot of people spend £50 million in a transfer and never hear from a player again. We've seen Everton do it an awful lot of players, and we saw United do it an awful lot of players, but there's barely a flop at Man City. There isn't, and that's one thing. It's genuinely true. He makes everyone.
We've got that as well. Burnley spent money in the window compared to other Championship clubs, but like that guarantees you nothing. Like for example, Stoke City, they spent like 55 million quid
exactly
back in 18, and they finished, I think, 16th. Aston Villa, they spent 60 mil as well when it went down, and they finished 14th. Like, you guaranteed nothing.
Aston Villa spent about 150 million when they sold Grealish, and fucking nothing happened, you know. Like, and that's just how it is, isn't it? So it's not that it's all very well and good spending money, but it doesn't mean anything unless you can coach them. And it looks like Vinny can. I'm jealous, mate, that you have Vincent Kompany. I really am. I love him. He's a massive place in my footballing heart. I think he's immense, and I do think Burnley, you're going to win them. You're going to win. You're going to come up, and I think he's going to be there. Yeah. What is your... Go on.
There's one great story about Kompany, and that kind of speaks about the kind of person he is, that I think that you would like to hear. Is that when, of course, we went down and we were looking like we probably can't get Kompany, and Borussia Mönchengladbach, they wanted Kompany and made a direct contact to him. Before that, just prior, literally like a couple of days beforehand, Burnley was in contact with Kompany and was trying to find out, can it still come together? And he actually had a verbal agreement with Burnley at the time period. But it was nothing written, nothing on paper, but it's, you know, his word essentially that, okay, I'll be part of your project.
Yeah.
And then when Borussia Mönchengladbach came and gave him a deal, basically, you know, offered a contract, actually wanted to have that conversation with him, he said no. He's gave Burnley his word. You know, and there was nothing that would have stopped him from talking to them at the very least, but he said it out of principle that he wouldn't go out of his way, because I guess he's that kind of person that doesn't want to be seen like that. And the way that I see that speaks as a manager, that when he does leave Burnley, he won't leave us midway through a year. No. He'll leave us when I think everyone knows that he's going to take that next step. And I think that'll be probably in 2025. I think we'll go up. Obviously, we'll spend 1 year in Premier League, and then second year trying to kick on, be a mid-table club or wherever he takes us. And I think maybe after that year, I think maybe that's when he'll take that next step. And I think it'd be obvious and understandable from everyone involved. Because I think as a person, you want to be known as having your principles, and I think that's what Kompany has.
Oh yeah, he's a very principled man, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I don't think you achieve what he does without being a man of your word. Anyway, he has to, that everything about Vincent Kompany is about honour, integrity, and leadership. You know, so he leads by example. He always has done, and that's what makes him so special. What are your expectations for next season? Because we can't look that far forward already. You know, are you confident that you could establish you guys back in the Premier League again?
I think that we'll stay up next year. I do think that the level of Premier League has got so much more difficult. It's got so much better over time. I know people are saying now, oh yeah, but there's all these poor teams down below and bottom, but they only look poor in comparison to the rest of Premier League.
No, I agree with you.
Like, the Championship is such a poor league, honestly. I can't begin to tell you the dross I've seen this year. And yeah, we got a relegation dogfight with Everton and Leeds and Leicester and West Ham and Wolves. You know, like, these are some fantastic clubs with some great players. So next year, I'm by no means thinking that we're going to go do a Fulham, but I do think under our system that is very, very well recruited. And I think with our board and with Vincent Kompany, I think that we are going to be seeing some incredible transfers in the summer, like as some of our lifetime. We'll be seeing Burnley linked with players that you would never think of. Literally yesterday, we were linked with Guerrero from Dortmund, right?
Really?
So, like,
that's the Vincent Kompany pull, though, isn't it? You know,
and the thing is,
look what Forest has done, by the way.
Look
what Forest has done with Kaylin Navas and people like that. Like, why can't you do that?
Exactly. I mean, I've made jokes about it, but like, you know, Kompany hitting the band back together. David Silva to Burnley. Leroy Sané to Burnley. You know,
David Silva, like, I would take him at City.
Hazard, you get that Belgian link as well. Lukaku, I don't think Chelsea needs him. There you go. You know, use those links wisely.
Do you know what? I think he could be smarter than that, though. The thing is, like, I think that they would be.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, I think it's brilliant. I don't think he would do that because I think he'd realise that's not really sensible. You know, I think he'd be one of those things where they're already rich. Fat and rich, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Good on them. But literally, they had nothing to gain from it. So I think he's going to do wonderful, and I genuinely, hand on heart, hope he does. And I love seeing the change. I think it's a fascinating story, City fan or not, you know, like seeing a man, people like Vincent Kompany should succeed because they are the best at football people. They are.
They're good people as well.
Yeah, they're good people. Liam, mate, I've really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for chatting to me and giving an overview of the world of Burnley and Vincent Kompany. I would wish you luck for tomorrow, but I won't mean it. I hope we beat you.
I was going to say, we've not even spark at the game for tomorrow.
You can go for it. I mean, how are you feeling about the game? I mean, I think it's abroad. I think you sort of covered it, but like, how are you feeling about the game? I mean, like, it's not going to be 5-0. It isn't going to be 5-0. I don't think it will be.
I think we've gone past the 5-0 period now, fortunately. Riyad Mahrez terrifies me to death.
He's going to play as well, I reckon. He's not played much recently, so...
Yeah, he's guaranteed going to play.
Yeah.
It's going to be really exciting to see exactly how we can take you guys on and adapt our style of play. And, you know, you guys are the very best. So
I have a question for you, actually. Taking away Harwood, Bellis and Muric, because they're already City lads, who is the one player at Burnley you think would fit into Manchester City side? I'm not talking about quality, but stylistically with a little bit of luck.
𝙐𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙬.
I want him at City.
Easily. 𝙐𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙬, he's a inverted fullback who's direct, who's got tons of energy, and he's just so enjoyable to watch. He's so direct. He would perfectly like fit your style play because how you play your fullbacks. That's how we play our fullbacks, and he's so good in that area. In terms of what makes Burnley tick though, like for tomorrow, who is going to be the one that will be, I guess, stand out potentially. That will, if he doesn't play, then we don't work. Is Josh Cullen midfield? Okay. Josh Cullen, he plays in that kind of Rodri role that you guys have. He's just perfectly just in the middle of the centre backs and a perfect number 6 role, linking up play. And yeah, if he's on it, then we stand a chance because he's imperative to how we do things.
I think it's going to be closer than we realise. I think City will win. I think we'll prevail, but I think it's going to be like a 3-1 or something like that, where you actually score and it's 2-1 at some point, and we're like, oh, then we get like a late third. I think it's going to be something like that personally.
I can see us scoring first.
Yeah,
I can see it being possible that we could score first, and then maybe like the typical FA Cup. Oh, here we go, a big scare. And I think eventually your quality will shine. You sub on whoever.
City are going to take it very seriously. I guarantee you, because I don't.
Do you think it's still Haaland or it should be Alvarez?
It'll be Alvarez. I reckon he's just signed a new contract, and though having said that, there's 2 weeks off for City games, so Vincent Kompany could be welcomed by Erling Haaland because 2 weeks off. It's an FA Cup quarter final, one step away from the semis, and we haven't got Liverpool till the 1st of April because of the international break. So he could just go strong. I would not put it past him at all. Though Alvarez does need football, he's just signed a new contract. So I reckon it's going to be something like. Laporte will play because he hasn't played much recently. I'm sorry, that's a mad like.
You can name anyone.
Kyle Walker hasn't played the other day, so Kyle Walker will come back in. Laporte. It will be. I think we might see Sergio Gomez get a game, which would obviously he might play. He'll play Ake, I reckon, and then he'll.
Come on, give me something. Give me some. Play one of your young.
Calvin Phillips. There you go. There's something. That's the weakness. I think he might give. Yeah. And who else?
Burnley.
Foden will start on the left, I reckon. Morris on the right, and it'll be Alvarez. KDB, I'm not sure he'll start. I think we'll play Bernardo and Gundogan. KDB might start actually because he missed a couple of games and played the other day and scored. So it's going to be a strong team. He's not going to do massive changes.
You won't get him away from Wembley. It's quarter final, so it's not like you're not playing against a League One or like a Championship mid-table side. You're playing against a team which is a Premier League side.
I guarantee you, Pep's taking Burnley very seriously as well because of the Vincent Kompany thing, and there's an inherent pride and ego of managers like Guardiola and Vincent Kompany as well. They don't want to lose to their protege or their master. They want to prove a point, don't they? So,
and I've also just realised that it's kind of a lose-lose. Let's say somehow, some way, we somehow beat you tomorrow and knock you guys out. It's probably a bad thing because it means that he's probably going to be leaving us sooner. Kompany's going to impress too fast for us, and then he'll go to City sooner. So
certainly
if he knock you guys out, it just means he's going to be probably forever, leaving it quicker in the long run.
For me as a City fan, I want Burnley to give us a fucking good game, and I want Vincent Kompany to get the reception that he's going to get. He's going to be, honestly, the songs will be about him all day. So Vincent Kompany songs will be going around all day, and I want you to give us a good game, and City to be like, maybe he's a little bit closer than then when Pep hangs up his Man City boots.
Maybe a great game of football. That's the main.
It's going to be a great
game of football.
And I'm sure I'll speak to you about Vincent Kompany once again in the future, mate. I'm going to leave it there. If that's all right. Thank you very much for chatting to me, Liam. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, my friend.
And of course, there'll be a link to Vizzy's channel in the description below, but you'll know it if you're on YouTube because he's the Mr. Burnley. He always has been, always will be. Thank you very much, mate. I'll catch you very, very soon. Guys, let me know down in the comments what you made of this chat, what you make of the game tomorrow, and of course, Vincent Kompany returning, and what you've made of Burnley as well. Like this video if you like it. Don't if you don't. I don't really mind. And give the channel a subscribe if you're new to it as well. Guys, catch you in a bit. See you later, and I'll see you for the game tomorrow. Bye-bye.